And then my eyes and everything started going blurry. And I was like, man, what is wrong with me?
Welcome to the Strokecast. A Generation X stroke survivor explores rehab, recovery, the frontiers of neuroscience, and how to peel a banana with one hand.
Hello, I'm Bill Monroe, and welcome to episode 69 of the Strokecast. In this episode, I talk with Heisman Trophy winner and retired professional basketball player Charlie Ward about his experience with stroke last June while on a church mission trip to Mexico. Charlie and I talk about the things in his life that led up to the incident and the lifestyle changes that he's made to give himself the best chance of living a long, healthy, and stroke-free life. After a spectacular multi-sport college athletic career, Charlie graduated in 1994 and joined the NBA. He played professional basketball from 94 through 2005 when he retired due to injuries. He's since transitioned into coaching and now coaches basketball at Florida State University in Tallahassee. His Twitter bio describes Charlie as simply man of integrity, Heisman Trophy winner, retired NBA athlete, motivational speaker, philanthropist, coach, mentor, lover of one woman. Now, let's meet Charlie Ward. So Charlie, thank you so much for joining us here on Strokecast this week.
I appreciate you guys having me. I look forward to share my story, and hopefully I'll be able to help someone else as they continue to recover from their stroke.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things, the power of storytelling and just sharing our stories is so valuable because so many people, and especially younger people who have a stroke, end up just feeling isolated and feeling like they're alone, and they're not.
I guess you can say that about a lot of things. And stroke is part of, those a lot of things. And, it's always, it's one of the things I've been sharing as I've been speaking around the country is, when you're going through tough times, there's always someone else worse off. And so we just have to find our group, find our niche, or the people that have similar stories because they can better relate to what you're feeling and thinking, and have a little bit more empathy and compassion for you. So it's just a matter of finding your group that can help support you on what you're going through.
Absolutely. And being a part of your community, whether it's a community based on where you live or the type of life that you live, that community is so important, in person or online or wherever it happens to be.
That is so true.
What was life like in the months leading up to your stroke? I mean, what was life like, a year ago from, in May, April, March?
Well, for me, I was just preparing to move to a new job. I had just taken a job in Tallahassee as a head boys basketball coach at Florida High. And so I was leaving a job that was very stressful. I didn't realize at the time how much the stress was causing me to go into daily bad habits. And so I started poor eating habits, and I wasn't exercising. I guess, for me, I had burned out as far as exercising. It caught up with me along with the stress and the poor eating habits. I started to not really understand how that was playing a big part in, a plaque buildup, and then the stress, of course, just like anything else, causes a lot of issues in the body. And so it was. I really didn't have any health. I had just gone to the doctor, so I really didn't have any health, alerts when I had my mini stroke, it was eye-opening to find out a lot of different things that I needed to change.
And that I think is a story about how a lot of people encounter this. No one decides I'm going to stop eating well. It's just it sort of creeps up on you. It's the whole classic example of how do you boil a frog? You don't put it in the boiling water, you put it in comfortable water and just raise the temperature just a little bit at a time.
That is true. So true. And it's just like anything else we do. It all starts small, and those small things tend to add up over time. And it's no different than time and all the other things that you do, even your work, your workouts. You start small, and then over the course of time, you do 15 minutes a day, and over the course of the week, you put in quite a few, you put over a couple hours, a few hours. So it's that time eventually adds up over the course of 2 to 3 weeks, and then 4 weeks you want to add more. The small things that you do in life, they add up over the course of that, over the course of you know a lot of time.
Right, right. And what's most important then for those good habits is that you just get started. You don't have to go to 3 hours of working out every day. You just have to get started, and eventually you can get there.
That is true. That's the thing that I had to get to, because I'd been a professional athlete, college athlete as well. I trained all my life to prepare for my sports, and so I got into a point where when I retired, I just stopped training that hard, and I knew the pain of getting your body in shape,
Mm.
and I just didn't feel like pushing myself that hard, and that poor choice, was one of the reasons why my health started to decline, or had the health scare back in June of 2018. Just like things in life, um, we have to revisit when crisis comes. I heard Pastor Miles Monroe say, crisis brings about a change
Mm.
in our lives, and so it's really not until we have crisis when we decide we need to change something. Uh, that's 95 or 96% of the people that happens. We really don't change when things are going well, but there are some things we do change when they are going well. But it's something that we all face at some point in time, and mine came last year.
So what happened on that day? What happened that day you had the stroke?
Well, my wife and I, we were, and our daughter, we were on a mission trip in Ensenada, Mexico. We were at a children's village there. It was the day that we were having our meals. It was a Sunday, and we were having our meals with the moms and dads and the kids in the village. And that was our first day there, really. And so we had our dinner, and of course, over there, they were concerned about the water, but I thought I drunk the right water. Um, and there's a cup there, and I picked it up, and I thought I drunk the right water. But I ate my meal, and after my meal, everything was fine. And I started we were putting food packs together to take out into the city. That's part of the mission while we were over there, to help feed some of the families that support, that the church over there supports. And so I was helping to pack food, and I was doing the sugar. We had sugar bags, and I was putting the sugar bags together. Did that quite well, and then I was started putting some macaroni packs into a bag, a big Ziploc bag to put in, and I I kept dropping the bag, and
Mm.
I couldn't figure out why I kept dropping the bag, and then my eyes and everything started going blurry, and I was like, man, what is wrong with me? It was thinking to myself, and as I was dropping the bag and I was picking it back up, and I was dropping it again, and I picked it back up, and while I was, there, my wife came over and said, "Are you okay? You keep dropping the bag. Or why you keep dropping the bag?" And then I turned around and I told her that I just wasn't feeling well. And then that's when she noticed that my lip was twisted and I wasn't moving my, I think it was my left arm. And so we had, fortunate for us, for me, we had a nurse uh, who was actually supposed to be gone to the city to pick up food because he was in charge of the meals, but he stayed back to help prepare the lunch or dinner or whatever we were preparing. And he came over and took vital signs and did all those types of things and sat me down. And so I was and called 911, did all the necessary things, and they were able to get me stable. And once I got stable, I was able to. I was coherent the whole time. I went blind, or went blurry.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't see. And then I started to become stable. I could see. I could still hear people. I heard my wife the whole time. I heard people around me the whole time. And I ended up, going to a hospital of some sort there in Mexico so that I can get released back into the States. We had a doctor friend who's actually our pastor now. Tanja, my wife, was talking to the whole time, and he was giving us instruction on what we should do to try to get back to the States so that I can be seen. And so I was able to get back to San Diego to get into the hospital there, to get in, which they put me in the stroke unit and did all the testing that I needed to do.
Wow. That's sort of one of those things that just really is going to especially scare a lot of Americans, is having a stroke or a major medical event outside the country. It sounds like you were able to get some quality care there from the people around you and the local infrastructure.
Yes, they were very helpful. We of course had on our trip we had some caretakers at the village that had connections and gave us information to be able to help us be able to speak the language if we needed to speak, Spanish fluently, so that we can get our message or what we were desiring or asking to the doctors there. They were very helpful. I'm grateful that we had that type of support. I was blessed to be able to have, people that were caring and wanting to see me get back to health.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like when we were talking about earlier with the importance of community, I mean, you were essentially traveling with your own community at that point too, which certainly helps to have those folks around who are able to help out one another when needed.
That's always important, to have the community around you. And I'm grateful that people was willing to help me. That was a great blessing as well.
Right, right. So once you got back to San Diego, what was that experience like in the hospital and rehab?
Well, getting to San Diego was an experience within
Oh.
itself. Of course, we were like an hour and a half away,
Mm-hmm.
and the ambulance that was taking me across the border was breaking a lot of rules. For me, it was tough because I was on an IV,
Mm.
so I had to use the restroom every
Sure.
30 minutes or less. And so that was tough deal, but I was grateful that I was alive.
Mm-hmm.
And once we got across the border, people started to take care of me, to help me get to where I needed to get to. And that was, good. And I was grateful that I had the opportunity to, I didn't want to spend it this way with my wife. We were supposed to be doing a mission trip, but we had opportunity to spend a few days in the hospital together, which was, for me, I was ready to go once I felt good, like most people.
Sure.
But they kept me after, evaluation, because they thought it was one thing, but they found out after doing more tests that I had a mini stroke, and that landed me in the hospital for another day and a half, which was like torture for me, or for anyone, I'm sure. At least when you're feeling much better than you were at the time when the stroke happened. It was something I embraced. Got an opportunity to hang out with my wife. Um, got a chance to relax. I guess that was part of God's plan. It was to slow me down a little bit. And that was an eye-opening experience, going through all the tests. I've done tests before, but not in that type of environment, the stroke unit. So it was it was a challenging time, but a great time to reflect, and also a great time to be able to spend with the wife.
It's one of the things that I find it's amazing is we go through life and we have all of these things we absolutely have to do and have to get done, and we fill our days with all of these activities, and we can't imagine not doing them. And then suddenly we end up in the hospital, and all of a sudden that entire to-do list, it just doesn't matter anymore. We're forced to take a break from it, and the world doesn't end.
Well, I mean, that's, as I mentioned, crisis. We all have it in our lives, and sometimes we're fortunate to be able to see the next day, and sometimes, some people don't make it. And so, I was grateful that I was able to see the next day, and embrace where I was. And also, I needed to make some changes in my eating, and also my exercise routine. So, I've made some necessary changes as far as my diet, and I exercise a little bit more than I did, a year ago. I'm grateful that I was able to see, the next day, and also be able to continue life, because maybe my situation, my health, can inspire someone else that may be going through similar situation, to keep pursuing, keep moving, keep learning, you know, from the crisis that you were given. And, so I'm grateful that I didn't have any physical limitations, like some have when they have a stroke.
Right, and that's awesome to be able to have retained your those different capabilities and things like that. Especially having spent so much time in athletics as you have. I mean, one of the things I sort of joke about in my life now is, even though I don't have use of my left arm, my left hand yet, and I got to walk around with a cane and stuff, is that really I would be no worse on the basketball court now than I was before the stroke, just because I was never had those kinds of skills. Yeah, it's interesting how we start talking with folks in their mid 40s, how we're seeing so much more of this now. But when you talk about getting back into your exercise routine and starting to improve your lifestyle, or how has your background as an athlete helped you today in that lifestyle change?
When I went through a crisis as far as my health was concerned in the NBA, I started to change my diet. And once I changed my diet, um, I was exercising. But once I changed my diet, I could see the benefits of doing it. And so I started, that part of it, the latter part of my career to help, preserve a few years on the back end of my career. I ended up hurting my knee to end my career. Once I got out of it, I continued to have a healthy lifestyle. I stopped the exercise portion a lot. So I hadn't worked out or done anything strenuous consistently, over the course of my time from my retirement even to last year. And it wasn't consistent. I mean, I would do something here or there, but it wouldn't be consistent. Over the course of time, I could feel myself getting further and further out of shape. And I knew that at some point in time, if I tried to get back in shape, it was going to hurt. And because I knew the pain of, getting in shape and all those types of things. And I just didn't feel like I didn't want to go through that. So I didn't work out as often or as much, and kind of a burnout, for me. That was something that, and then I got in a situation where, I was in a stressful job situation um, for a few years, and then eating habits started to go out the window. It caught up with me, long term. Um, I had to once I had my stroke last June. I ended up going to a cardiologist, one of our cardiologists in Houston, Dr. Baxter Montgomery, and he's a friend of ours from when we were in Houston, and so we ended up going to him and getting his diagnosis and all the different things that he wanted us to do, and he put me on a raw vegan detox
Hmm.
for 3.5 weeks. And this was in August when I made this decision, or the latter part of June, when I was on this raw detox. And that, you know, when I saw my numbers change and a lot of things started to change in my life, I mean, my health wise, I was doing some exercise, nothing major, but some exercise, small portions of walking, and just being active. And then you know then I ended up going to a vegan diet after that, and just to help clear up the plaque, which was built up around my heart. And they never really understood how the stroke got to my brain, because they thought I was AFib, and it came back and wasn't quite AFib. I had some issues before with my heart skipping beat while I played, but it wasn't anything major. And my mom had same thing, AFib as well, so they thought it might have been hereditary. But the test came back and showed that it wasn't quite sure, what it was and how it got there, but it did. And so the next best thing was to, clean up the arteries and those types of things. And so that's the reason why one of the things I'm reasons why I'm on a vegan diet was to help clean up the plaque issues outside of just your normal health issues. All those types of things, don't have any major issues anymore.
Oh, that's great. So you're still maintaining the vegan diet, or was it just for those 3.5 weeks?
Well, the 3.5 week was raw.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It was all raw vegetables and what have you. Now, I maintain the vegan diet, whether it's cooked or raw. I'm working to eliminate, from my understanding, to clean up my arteries.
Sure.
And so that's one of the ways that I'm doing it.
Yeah. So for folks who aren't familiar, we normally talk about plaque. Most of the time we talk about it, it's the stuff that builds up on your teeth. But what happens is from, a lot of fatty diets and a lot of poor habits over time, similar deposits can build up on the insides of your arteries. And when your arteries then are narrow, it means they can't flex as much. And the heart has to work a lot harder to push blood through them, which leads to high blood pressure. And bits of plaque can sometimes break off, and when they get blocked then in some of the smaller blood vessels in the brain, a clot forms around that foreign object in that blood vessel, it cuts off the circulation, and now you've got a stroke.
And that's what happened with me in some form or fashion. I did have some afibrillation, and when I did my test, it didn't show that. But over my years, I've been diagnosed with afibrillation on some of my exams that I did while I was playing, and then the history of my mom having it, and then finding out that quite a few people in my family have it as well, and so they're thinking that may have been the cause.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. An AFib can be tough to detect in folks. I know in my case, they had me wear a monitor for 2 weeks that recorded all of the heartbeats and to check and see if I had that. And in some cases, they actually implant a monitor to keep an eye out for that stuff.
Yeah, that's the
But it
same
can be
with
tough
me.
to find. Yeah.
I was there for 3.5, 4 weeks or so on a heart monitor, and that's where they showed that I didn't have any. And I did it with exercise and all those, with monitor on as well. So, but it didn't show during that time any afibrillation. But with my history, they're thinking that that's possible, that it could have happened.
So, I mean, it's been, obviously, as we've been talking, it's been a while since you retired from professional basketball. I mean, how have, the folks you've known in the NBA or former teammates sort of responded to the news about your stroke?
I guess everyone, just like anyone, you really don't know. But I mean, you don't know what a person may be going through or what the cause is. But I mean, there are people who probably were shocked because they had seen me before, and I wasn't, humongous.
Hmm.
From after on playing days, and that's something that's common. You see, guys who were in pretty good shape, and you see them again, and they're like huge.
Mhm.
And but that wasn't me. I wasn't huge, but I was not in good shape, and I understood and knew that. Just my body type. We're a slender family. On the males in our family are all slender, so genetically, we're not depositioned to be big guys.
Mhm.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're healthy. I mean, people are shocked that that happened, but it also just, you see it every day, or not every day, but you see it a lot where, a former athlete may have dropped dead after a workout.
And I
And
think
so
that's something, yeah, I think that's something that the general population is not aware of, that can be an issue, and that does happen, as opposed to, I mean, it is your community, and these are people you knew and worked with for a long period of time, and so you're more acutely aware that, yeah, this stuff happens to former athletes.
it can happen to anyone,
Hmm.
and there are guys who have heart issues, and they're playing ball, and they're out there, and they pass away, after a workout or doing a workout. Death doesn't have a certain group group on it. It's we're humans, and we have certain things that happen to our bodies. We have to make sure that we, just like our great car, our great car can last a long time, if you take care of it. I mean, you have to take care of the oil. You got to change the oil consistently. You have to make sure you rotate the tires. You can't crash it. And if you crash it, you can put it back. You can, work to put it back together. But at some point in time, we're just like, you know, those type of vehicles. And so if you want a car, if you want a car that lasts a long time, you got to take care of it. And I talk to our athletes all the time about, the type of gas they're putting in their vehicles, their bodies. If they're trying to get a certain outcome, then these are the things you can't put in your body, because one, you're developing bad habits, and once you stop playing, it becomes an issue. And two, the oil that you're burning from the fatty foods or whatever it is that you're eating, you're not getting all of the nutrients and things to be able to help the body flourish, so that you can run fast or run longer, be the best athlete you can be. And at some point in time, those things cause injuries. And even with you taking care of your body, and doing all the necessary things the right way, you still doesn't mean that you're immune from it. You just have to make sure that you're doing everything to give yourself a chance to have the best life, so that if something does happen, it's not a long recovery process. You can shorten the recovery process if you've taken care of yourself over the course of time. And when something does happen, the recovery process is not as long. That's the key to being a great athlete, or anyone that has illness. If you're in really good shape, and I've heard this, with people who are in car crashes and different things, and they're saying if they weren't in great shape, they might not be here today. But you at least want to give yourself a chance, by having healthy lifestyle habits.
And I've heard that in talking with other survivors as well, folks who were, nobody knows why they had their stroke, but their recovery went so much better because they were already in good shape to begin with, and it gives you a good solid base, a good solid foundation on to go ahead and recover and relearn the things that you need to relearn.
Yes, that's always important, to have a good foundation, so that you can, be able to recover faster. And that's, like I always use, sports as an analogy, because you think about the guy who's out for, 6 months, or the guy who's out for, 3.5 weeks. They could probably have the same injury, but if they're healthy, if their body's not ready to be able to heal, because we know the God had created the body to heal itself. If we're not, if we put the body in a state where it's having to work harder, as opposed to, as we talk in term athletic terms, say work harder, work smarter than harder. And so we got to make sure we put our bodies in that same type of situation to where we can, work smarter by having good habits, eating the proper foods, drinking a lot of water instead of soda, doing on exercising, regularly 3 to 4 times a week, even if it's 15, 20 minutes a day, or those time periods, so that if something does happen, the recovery is a lot quicker.
So over the past year or so, you've made these lifestyle changes. You're getting more exercise. You're eating a vegan diet. Your health numbers are improving and growing, and those are some awesome changes. How has this experience changed the things you're doing career wise and your engagement with the community?
My network of people have expanded because of my stroke. And so that's something that I think we all have in common, uh, whatever it is, whether it's cancer, whether it's a heart attack. Before that time, you've only heard about it and you've seen other people. But once it happens to you, now you have another opportunity to share your story with those that may be in the same boat as you, or anyone that you want to share your story with, to be able to help them understand the importance of having a healthy, lifestyle through eating properly, and exercising, and not, and living a stress-free life. Stress is part of the biggest issue, because it throws the body out of whack, and it starts to develop poor habits because we're trying to feed the stress, whatever we're going through. We're trying to either eat it off, trying to drink it off. And once we start eating and drinking, we don't take into account what we're doing because we're just putting in all the time and whatever it is that we're thinking about, we're trying to get rid of or get away from. We go to what our comfort zone or comfort foods. And one of the things, once we start doing that, we eliminate the things that are very good for us, like exercise, because we are downtrodden and we're thinking about, all the things that we're going through. That's something that we all have to think about when we're going through difficult times, that there are health issues on the other end that could transpire from us going through a stressful relationship or stressful job situation.
We talk about most of the time when folks talk about the idea of self-medicating, we're often using that as a euphemism for drinking and drugs, but the idea of self-medicating also comes into play with food and with all of those awesome tasting bacon cheeseburgers and whatnot. But the stress drive can drive us to those poor lifestyle choices, and when they become our new lifestyle, we really set ourselves up for some problems in the future.
Yes, and it's like I said earlier. It's a subtle deal because a lot of times you don't see it, and those days add up. If you have 1 or 2 cheeseburgers a week, I mean that stuff adds up. And then on top of that, if you're not exercising, and even if you're exercising, um, at some point in time, if depending upon your age, you're still burning, the fat, and if you're not burning at a high level, then it makes it even tougher, and that's when you start getting the plaque buildup. And so it's important that you take an assessment of what you're eating, your exercise, and also, like I said, the stress level, on the job, because all those factors play a big part in your health.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the things you've been involved in to to help folks out and to help your community is the Award Foundation. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, actually, it's the Charlie Family Foundation now.
Oh, okay.
Um, and we do a lot of different things. It's not just me, but it's my wife and our kids. We put together a blanket drive to help homeless families with, providing blankets. We've also done some hurricane relief um, outings to help victims with hurricanes uh, with clothing and food and those types of things. So and of course I have a book out called The Athlete, which is part of our fundraising for our foundation to be able to help the families and the organizations, the youth organizations that we support, because we ran a basketball camp for about 11 years during my time, and now we're supporting youth organizations, not just basketball, but other local and even national organizations that are doing great things for youth.
Great. It's great to have that platform to be able to help others and to give other folks a way to support the foundation and to give back, whether that's going to be by participating in your relief efforts or by as simple as picking up a copy of the book and figuring out how they can help in their own communities. And we'll absolutely be linking over to that from the show notes for this episode as well. If you're talking to athletes in high school or college these days, what would you want to tell them about stroke? What do they most need to know?
Well, the first thing is to make sure they develop good eating habits. And that's one of the things I always talk to my kids about is just the fundamental principles of developing good eating habits, because it fuels high performance. Um, and secondly, exercise and doing necessary things to keep your body in shape throughout your years, and just minimizing the stress that you may have, because the stress plays a big part in the other two factors. Because if you're eating a lot, you don't want to work out, and to make sure how to recognize, you know educate them as well on recognizing whether it's a stroke or whatever it may be, uh, and how to help assist someone that may be going through that, because it could happen at the house, if they don't recognize the how to help that person, then they could easily end up losing that person because of just the time. And so it's something I, I share with our guys consistently, or athletes, to make sure that you're getting regular checkups, taking care of your bodies. That's very, very important as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And yeah, I would encourage everyone to go ahead and in your home, in your workplace, in your school, make sure you post up the Be Fast warning signs for stroke: balance, eyes, face, arms, speech, time to call an ambulance, sudden change in balance, sudden change in vision, sudden change in facial shape, facial droop, loss of full functionality of an arm, slurred speech. Those things all indicate a possible stroke, as you had many of those symptoms in on that day in Mexico, and it is time to call an ambulance. So be fast. And if you are looking for a picture of that, we'll have that over at strokecast.com/Charlie. in the show notes. You can go ahead and print that out and hang it up at your school, your office, your gym, wherever, to make sure folks know how to recognize the signs of a stroke that are happening. So Charlie, if folks want to know more about you and what you're up to these days, where should they go?
They can go to charlieward.org. That's my website, or they can Facebook me at Real Charlie Ward. And so those are two places where they can catch up, see what's happening with me today.
Awesome. So Charlie, thank you so much for joining us here today. This has been fantastic.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And that brings us to our hack of the week, where this time Charlie tells us how to make the shift to a vegan or other healthy lifestyle.
The simplest tip is something that Nike slogan, which is just do it. The toughest thing is you got to make a choice and put a plan together and go execute the plan. It's no different. It's not a hard deal. The only hard part is just making the choice and choosing to, put the time and effort into it. And so, it's really a mindset that if I'm going to accomplish something, I know for me, I just had to make an adjustment. If I want to be healthy, to be able to see my kids grow old and give myself an opportunity to live, longer, then I need to make some changes. And so it came down to a mindset, a choice that those are the things that I wanted. And this is what, the doctors have said that I need to do in order to make that a reality. And I'm working to do it.
The big lesson that comes out of this episode for me is that we simply have to take care of ourselves. We have to manage our diets, exercise more, and keep our stress levels under control. It's not complicated or fancy. We just have to do it. And that's easy to forget until a crisis hits, like a stroke. Ineffective habits sneak up on us when we're not looking. We may plan to deal with them tomorrow or the day after because it doesn't feel like a big deal. I mean, remember, high blood pressure doesn't hurt. There's no pain. There's just damage that's happening until it's too late. It often takes a crisis to move us to change, and even that's not enough sometimes. Charlie's encounter with stroke in Ensenada, Mexico was enough to drive that change for him. He got more consistent with his workouts, he changed his diet, he worked to reduce his stress while he takes his message and story to athletes and others around the country. So head on over to strokecast.com/Charlie to find links for his website and social media profiles. Engage with Charlie. He's got a big contact form on his website, so you can do just that. Check out his book, The Athlete, on Amazon or at Charlie's site. Again, just visit strokecast.com/Charlie for those links. Is there someone in your life who likes basketball? Go ahead and share this episode with them by just giving them the link strokecast.com/Charlie. And, of course, as always, don't get best, get better. Thanks a lot. I'm Bill Monroe, and I'll talk to you soon.
The Strokecast, Bill Monroe, and Bill's guests provide general information and entertainment, not medical advice. Please do not make any changes to your treatment plan or the execution of your treatment plan without first consulting your personal doctor or medical team. The Strokecast is a proud production of the Currently Speaking Podcast Network.